Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello. I think we're live. I hope we're live. So
Hi there.
I've been alerted that we are live on Facebook. So.
Great. So without further ado, I don't know how many people are actually watching us already, but we'll start. And if you join and you want to answer, if you want to ask us a question, then you can post in this live event, and hopefully one of us will be able to see it and pick it up, and we'll try to answer. First, we've got some posted questions from some of the patrons from the Patreon page, and also one from the Facebook page somebody posted earlier. So we're going to go through those first, but post your questions and we'll get to them. Hopefully we'll get to as many as we can. So this is the Serpent Sword production team. I'm Matthew Harvey, the writer of the books, in case you didn't know, and just quickly introduce everyone else. So we've got Rhiannon. Rhiannon's the director of the proof of concept trailer that we did, and runs Cinemerse, which is the production company. And Connor is her partner in crime at Cinemerse, and also the director of photography, or I don't know what you prefer, cinematographer.
Either or.
And an editor and general good man with pictures and making everything look amazing. Jordan Woodley is here, who's the one of the producers on the team, and basically keeps us all in order and make sure we do everything right and get to everywhere on time and things like that, and lots more besides, of course. James, who's the guy who kicked off the whole project originally by contacting me and asking me about the rights, and then getting everyone else involved. And he's also a keen amateur historian and been involved in films and stuff as well for a long time. So he's also one of the producers. And last but not least, producer and scriptwriter Greg Stewart, who has done a great job of writing the script of not only the proof of concept trailer, but also the pilot episode of the full series. And he's written the second episode too, and a series breakdown. And we've been working really closely on the script. So here we are, and without further ado, and thanks to everybody who's joined us, without further ado, I'll start reading out some of the questions and we'll get stuck in answering them. So the first question we've got is from Anna Bucci, who's one of the patrons from the Patreon page, and she asks, what are the next stages in the process? And I'll hand that over to Rhiannon.
Fabulous. Well, it's been very exciting so far. I would say a few weeks, if not months ago, we started pushing out the project, and essentially it's been a very busy time for the Serpent Sword. We've had a lot of really amazing interaction that we wouldn't have even dreamed of, and we didn't think we would be or exposure we didn't think we'd be getting this kind of at this point in time. But essentially, the next steps are, we've currently got a sales agent. She's really wonderful, and she's now going to be looking at selling it into the big streamers. So essentially, we're kind of waiting on that at the moment. Because of COVID, it has meant that a lot of networks are slowing down buying content, and we have been warned that it might take a little while to get to that stage, but it's definitely going in a really positive direction, and we're looking forward to hearing more, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rhys. So I think, one of the things there, the COVID thing was early on was really amazing for us in some ways, because everyone was at home, and so we were getting people on Zoom calls with us that I think normally would never have bothered talking to somebody who didn't have loads of money behind them. So that was really helpful. I think now we've got to the stage that things are moving in the industry, and it's becoming more difficult, which is why we started thinking about having an agent. So we've got this agent involved, and we're hopeful that things are gonna go well. She's got a lot of experience in the industry, so fingers crossed.
And the feedback from her on the pitch and the Bible and the whole POC as well has been very, very positive, as it has been with a lot of other people we've gone out to, partner wise and network wise. So yeah, we've got all our fingers and toes crossed.
So it's funny, Ree mentioned there the Bible. So just for people watching this that don't know what she means, we're not talking about the King James Bible. Talking about when you do a TV series, you have a thing which is sometimes called a treatment, but other times called the series Bible. And it's basically covers everything that's going to be in the series. So it covers all the characters, the plot, the locations, and a general sort of talking everything that you need to know about the series, really. So that's something that we put together a few months ago with a lot of help from Greg. I mean, Greg did probably most of it, and that and the pilot script and a pitch deck are all the things that sort of go towards, and of course the proof of concept trailer are all the things that go towards, you know, getting it actually in front of executives that can actually fund it, and hopefully to greenlight it and get it made. And all of that stuff brings me on to the next question, which is also from Anna. And she asked us a few questions, but I'll ask the first two of hers and then we'll move on to someone else. So the second question was, how much buzz did the trailer get? So I'll hand that over to Con.
Yeah, how much buzz did it? Ooh, a lot of buzz, I reckon. We got over 100,000 views on Facebook alone in the first 2 weeks, which I think is quite the feat, and we were all very pleased with that. And then around 10,000 on YouTube as well. And then we've got a few on Twitter, we've got it on Instagram as well. So our view count is quite good. And from that, we've also been contacted by some actors that are in some prominent series at the moment that you might have seen contact us. They got in touch and said, oh, you know, can we have a role in this, or, you know, give us some more information, which was a huge thing. You know, that's so good to see that just from a natural progression of them seeing it, they like it and they want to be involved in it, which is really good. And obviously we can't say any names or what shows they're in at this point, but fingers crossed that could lead to some exciting things. And we've had lots of positive feedback on the Facebook comments as well, and you know, everyone can go look through those, and it's all good stuff. And from execs and producers that we've shown it to, it's all been really good positive feedback. And in fact, the main actor Liam, who plays Beobrand, has actually had people come up to him and say, "Oh, you're the guy from that trailer, the Serpent Sword," which he was really chuffed with, and it's really nice to see that.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was talking to him the other day about it, and but all that being said, keep sharing it, get those view counts up, because the more views we have and the more numbers we have to go into pitches with, the better.
Absolutely, yeah. That's true. I mean, thanks for everybody that shared it. I mean, it's been amazing, and I think without people sharing it and talking about it, we wouldn't have had that number of views. So that was really good. But it's never, you know, there's some people keep sharing it every now and again. Paul Lennon, I'm looking at you, and it's great, you know. And I think if everybody just every now and again, if you think about it, think, oh, you know what, I'll go to the Serpent Sword page and I'll share that again. It's all great, because because the way the algorithms work on Facebook as well, people don't see everything you share. So if you share it one day, you know, some set of your friends will see it. You share it another day, other people will see it. So keep sharing. It's all good. And yeah, it's brilliant. So just for anyone who's just joined, I said at the beginning, we're going to go through some of the questions we've been asked in advance. But if you've got any questions, please post them in the comments section of this Facebook Live, and we'll do our best to get to the questions that you ask. And welcome, and hopefully this is interesting to you as well. So so Anna Bucci's got a couple more questions that she asked, which I'll go back to in a bit. But first, I'm going to move on to a question that was asked again on the Patreon page. So just a quick, I mean, you probably, if you follow the page, you must have seen us harping on about the Patreon page, but just a reminder that if you want to see sort of behind the scenes footage and get different rewards there from about the writing, but also about the TV series, you can sign up. There's different tiers with the Patreon page, and some of them, you know, the more you invest in it, the more rewards you get. In terms, you get things like signed books and snippets of stuff that's going on, and videos, and some concept art, and all sorts of things like that. So have a look. You can have a look and see what the tiers provide, and see if there's anything that interests you. But it's been great. The people that are already on there, you know, I think they're generally happy with what they're getting, I'm hoping. And one of the perks they got is to ask their questions in advance of this, and we're answering their questions first. So the next question is from Emma Stone, who is a patron, and her question is aimed at Jordan. So she says, Jordan, as someone with a disability, what challenges, if any, did you face while making the trailer? And how would you encourage other young people in a similar situation who want to follow in your footsteps or similar? And then she goes on to say, I think it's good to encourage young people with disabilities that anything is possible if they work hard.
Gosh, so Emma has given me quite the hardball question. So I've had a fair amount of time to sort of consider that and sort of give hopefully what I think will be a fairly nice and comprehensive answer to it. What I thought I'd do is just answer the second half first before and then maybe come back to the first section of the question by saying, firstly by just saying a bit about myself. Just to explain to our viewers, I am visually impaired. Technically, I am registered blind, as opposed to the category where you can be registered partially sighted. But I have roughly, I'm categorized as having no sight, although I do have what I would refer to as sort of getting around sight, as it were, which means I can sort of, I can see things close up. Like I read using a visual aid. I have assistance with things like programming, programs to help with any technical stuff that might be difficult. And so, yeah, it's quite. I think really it's there's no real straight answer to it, because I think as a disabled person, I think it's we're still in a position where it's hard to find your feet, really, trying to sort of get into an industry which is already very difficult to get into, being able-bodied. But as someone with a sort of a profound disability, I think what I really sort of started doing was initially making sure that I had the right sort of skill set. I think a lot of myself and a lot of people who I know who have equally or more severe disabilities, we all know that we have skills, and we all have brains, as it were, and it's just about making sure that we can sort of demonstrate that we can demonstrate in the right way that we have these skills, and making sure that we really have sort of honed them and worked on them, and got the right sort of qualities to sort of demonstrate that. So I studied an undergraduate in drama. I did a master's degree in radio production, and then it was just making sure that I sort of put myself in the right place, facilitated the right conditions to meet a group of people who I work well with. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I'm fairly able-bodied, I'm independent, but I do require assistance on these things, and working with the Serpent Sword team, they've been really supportive in making sure that they sort of cover any issues that I might have, but really, once you kind of have that a good support system in place, and you can just show that you have these skills, and making sure anything which you can, that you can cover, anything where you do have difficulties or struggle with something, that you have something in place just to make sure that either you can support it in some way, you have something to ensure that you can overcome that difficulty, or a way that people know that's something you're struggling with and that they can help you with. Speaking about the production specifically, it's really, I mean, on set, everyone was wonderful. We really had as I say, these guys and the cast, and even other members of the production team, had really created a really wonderful support environment for me, where we were in quite complicated, difficult environments, and so it's very apparent that there are situations where, like, I would find it difficult to get across certain terrains. We were when we were filming in forests, for instance. I think it was Matthew who really helped me get across. I seem to remember, he really assisted me in getting across streams and brooks, and making sure that I didn't trip on any trunks or anything. And
Yeah,
genuinely,
something that people should realise about working with Jordan as well is that although, as he said, he's visually impaired and he can't see that well at all, but he doesn't let it stand in his way, and so he when you're working with him, it's quite easy to forget that he is visually impaired. And when we first met, we met for a beer first. So me, James, and Jordan met for a beer, and I didn't realise that Jordan was visually impaired until we went to shake hands at some point. I don't even know if it was when we met or when we were leaving. I don't know. And basically, you put your hand out, and obviously Jordan didn't see me put the hand out, so he just totally ignored me, And then you sort of say, oh, and then you realise, but apart from that. And then obviously we talked about it, but apart from that, he just gets on with it as if nothing, as if there's no issue. But
Absolutely.
he doesn't know his limitations sometimes on set as
No,
well. So
no.
maybe.
But it's really good, like just from I guess an inside perspective of the industry, like you were saying, George, as well, is that it's quite rare actually that people with disabilities are kind of, I guess, included essentially behind the scenes, especially when we were working on a set that was very, very challenging. But you really were, you always have an attitude of capability in this, and that's why I think so many of us, I think everyone on set was kind of like, we very much forgot a lot of the time that you are visually impaired, because you're so capable and you are very independent. And I think that having that confidence, but also being able to talk to your fellow colleagues as well, and to say, I do need help in certain scenarios, I think that's really important to have a fine balance there.
I think I remember on another day it might have been the same day when we were filming on the wonderful cliff tops that have beautiful, the beautiful vistas. Once we arrived at the location, it was very clear that that's definitely an area where we sort of agreed as a team, went, perhaps it would be better if I didn't try to
Yeah.
sort of, develop my rock climbing ability.
I did. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I seem to remember it slightly different than that you actually said, I know, I really, really want to go up on the cliff and have a look. And so I said, okay, I'll walk with you up. I'll help you up the big slope to get to this thing. And then you're like, let's go to the very end of the cliff. At that point, it was like, no, Jordan, I forbid it now. Health and safety is kicked in. You're not going any further.
Exactly. But instead, you were helping with you were helping me spot. I was spotting the drone, and you were communicating via kind of like radio to James, who was on the cliff, weren't you, George?
Exactly, and I think that's really important. When it comes to sort of disability, is sort of knowing, with any production, it's sort of knowing where you can fit in, where you can sort of be useful. And I don't think that's any different from, if you have a disability, going, okay, I know I can't do this, but what can I do, and how can I sort of, place myself in a way that's, going to, help out, but not sort of put my life at risk, basically.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. You said there about, when you're on set. I mean, it's the first time I've been on set as well, and obviously I can't film stuff. I'm not going to be recording the sound, so there's lots of things I can't do on the set, and I can see better than you, but I couldn't do lots of other things. And so it is just about working out what you can do and what you can't do. And when somebody says, can you help with this, so in your case they might have been helping, can you look at lines, or can you speak on the radio on the phone to James, who is the other side of the cliffs, and tell him what, give him instructions or whatever. And in my case it was like, can you carry this, can you pick this up and just lug it over there, or can you get out of the way, basically just do what you're told, and try to be as helpful as possible, and just knowing what you can and can't do. So
so I think in terms of people, younger people who are sort of struggling, and I will admit it's not an easy path. I think getting to the Serpent Sword was not something that I planned out and mapped and went, this is where I want to be. But it's one of those things where you kind of allow the road to just sort of take you, as it were. You just, you go, you sort of learn about yourself, and then really just go, okay, I know there are things that I can't do, but anything I think I can do, I should push the sort of the barriers of that, and hopefully, if you have a great group of people who you're with, you really end up on a really just amazing project like this. And
so far all good. So right, next question then. There's another one from Anna. So she says, how optimistic are you all about the project? So I think I'll hand over to James first on that. I guess he's not answered anything yet. So,
well, on a personal level, I've definitely got quite a bit invested in this emotionally. It's something we've been working on for what, year and a half now, 18 months. It was February 2 years ago, I think, wasn't it? Not one gone, one before that we first met. And from there, we've got to what you've seen up on screen today, and the sort of obviously the goings on behind in the background. While I won't allow myself to get put everything I've got into this, because I'm always worried that if it never got made, it would destroy me emotionally. So I'm sort of holding back in that regard. But I'm definitely very optimistic because I think it's a fantastic story, and I think the setup we've got with the production team and the sort of style we're going for, it really has a lot of potential. And I think it's something that's it sort of covers bases by being quite original, but also appeals to a market that already exists. So yeah, I'm quite optimistic.
What about you, Greg? Are you optimistic?
I'm super optimistic, definitely. I mean, film and TV is very difficult to get going. Any kind of film or TV project is kind of up against it, I think, especially one that's kind of starting from scratch. And obviously, we've got we've got an existing property, Matthew's books, which are kind of very popular, and that really kind of, I think, helps us and has helped us to open doors already. But I think the feedback we've had from everyone we've spoken to has just been so positive. You can't help but be optimistic about it. And with the sales agent we've got involved now, she's really keen, she's really on board, and the number of people who've just said to us that this has got such a good chance of getting greenlit and getting success. It's hard not to be. I think we've had some really good weeks where things really seem to have gone really well and very fast and exciting, and then nothing happens for a few weeks, and it's easy to get kind of to think, oh, maybe it's not going to happen. But I think that's just the way these projects go, and they can take literally years to go from the start point to actually when you maybe get on set and film it properly. That we were already 18 months almost down the road, and even if we got greenlit tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be another year or more before filming starts. So yes, I think we've got as good a chance as anybody.
Great. Anyone else want to say how optimistic they are, or are we? I think we're all optimistic, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all optimistic. It's just had a great response. So
yeah, that's good. So I'm not sure. I mean, James, are you looking at how many people are on?
Yeah, we've got 17 people, 18 people just popped. Okay. 18's just popped on, and we've got a few questions lined up.
All right. Okay.
Anything, if you'd like me to pop them, do you want me to just read them out? Or?
I'll just cover. So we'll just go to one more question that was asked in advance, and so Barry Finch posted on the Facebook page before this, and he asked us, could the production team explain what helping visually recreate the story meant to them personally? So who wants to answer that one? So I think James, you kind of already touched on some of that about, for you have a vested interest in it, you really like the stories and stuff. For me, obviously for me, it means a lot because it's something I wrote, and then not just seeing it come to life on the screen, which was a real buzz, and it really was exciting. And when I was on set, I mean, the rest of the guys will tell you that I was like a kid in a
sweet shop.
A sweet shop. Yeah, I just was so happy, especially during the fight scenes and stuff. As everyone knows, I love writing the fight scenes, and I love watching them too. It was just great. So when the guys started swinging swords at each other, I just, when Rhiannon said cut, I was like, yes, this is amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. So I had that visceral sort of moment of seeing it. But not just that. For me, the other thing is that writing is really a solitary job, and I do obviously speak to the fans and the readers, get in touch with me, and that's great. And when I get to a certain stage in the production of the novels, I have to speak to an editor, and there's a little bit of communication with people in the industry. But it's really, most of the time you're on your own, just writing, and you get a bit of feedback. But it's not the same as working in a team with people. So for me, it's been incredible to work with this team and just have the feeling it's really exciting that other people are excited by something that I thought up, and that's, I mean, I don't know, it's maybe it's because my ego and I just love it, but it's just great being surrounded by people that are enthusiastic and all want to, you know, all pushing for the same thing, and it's also really exciting to speak to, you know, to have great creative people, everyone involved, all really interesting takes on things as well. So everyone's got their own creative input, and I'm very open to people's points of view and to what they want to do. And so it's been really exciting for me to work with Greg as well, and for Greg to come up with different ideas and different directions for certain parts of the story, not to totally derail the story at all or anything like that, but just to say, you know, have you considered this? Could we do that? Is it, yeah, okay, let's try it, let's do it. And so for me, that's just been really exciting.
Exactly.
So Ree?
Yeah, no, I was going to second you on the whole, I guess second you on the idea of the working with the team we have. Like 18 months ago when I first met these guys, I would never in a million years have envisaged that we would be this far down the line. And I think it says a lot that we this is almost a second job for all of us. Like, this isn't something we do like every couple of weeks. We're in touch with each other nearly every day. We have meetings like all the time, and it's because we're passionate enough about this project and we really genuinely believe in it. And every one of us here brings something very different and really, really great to the table as well. And that's very rare, having worked on other projects, to be with a team, or to be, certainly for me, to be surrounded with a team that is as solid and as conscientious as everyone is here. It's really wonderful. And I think just from a personal perspective as well, a few years ago, I'd have never thought that I'd have been potentially like, you know, directing even a proof of concept, but potentially even episodes of, you know, a medieval saga. That isn't typically something that maybe a female director would be kind of, I don't know, not necessarily something female directors are usually kind of directing or in that kind of area of kind of working in. So from the kind of perspective of a woman in the film industry, that's really exciting. And I love as well that these guys really listen to me. So I make all the shots a bit too much, but I really do feel like I'm listened to, and it's just really exciting because we don't know what's around the corner, and the kind of delving into a whole nother world and a whole nother age that I wasn't previously really that kind of educated by. And over time, like I've grown to know and love the characters and know more about that era. It's just really wonderful. And fingers crossed, because it would be amazing for it to go the whole way, you know.
Yeah. So I think, shall we move on to some of the questions from people online? So if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments and we'll try and get to them. But I think, James, do you want to read some out? Do you want to read the first one out and tell us who it's from?
The first one is, how did you put the team together? By Margaret, I don't know if I pronounced this right, Margaret Skay, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Margaret. So do you want to answer that one, James? Because really, you were instrumental in it.
Yeah. When I first actually listened to the books as audio books originally, while I was working in a job where I needed to wear ear defenders, so I couldn't hear anything else. So I thought I might as well listen to stories. And this was an era I was interested in, so I listened to them, and I thought how well they'd make a television series. They translated really well. There are some fantastic elements in there that would make great visuals. I know the era quite well anyway, and imagining it translated was quite good. So I got in touch with Matthew to literally just to say, who owns the rights to your books? Are they owned by? Have you sold them on to a production company? Do they belong to your editors, your what's the word, publishing company, or do you own them? And Matt got back to me with saying that he'd owned them, and I said, okay, do you mind if I then take this on and ask some people I know if they might be able to help out with it. And I'm pretty sure he thought I was just some mad fan, and just
pretty much.
I'll never hear from him again. But I got a small contacted a few people, and specifically Jordan, and he sort of took it from there, I suppose. He got in touch with Rhiannon Connor at Cinemas and said, I know these guys who have done a few other pieces, a number of shorts and things like that, a lot of advertising pieces, that sort of thing. They're award winners, which is always a nice thing to have on board. People who win awards tend to be quite good at what they do. And getting them on board, we had what was it? Would have been our second meeting probably, or third meeting. We spoke to them about what we wanted to do. We formulated a plan, which has actually changed a couple of times since
it's evolved,
our first meeting, of what we actually were aiming to do. And after that first meeting, we went, right, what do we need? We need someone to write this, because though Matthew's a novelist, he's self-confessed not a scriptwriter, not your department. So we, I think Jordan again put out feelers to I don't know, the script writing community, I suppose, for lack of a better term, to things. And
where Greg lives.
Yes,
he lives in a commune of script writers.
Land of the script writers. And we got I can't remember how many. I think we got about
13 or 15 or something. Is that?
Yeah. If I remember rightly, yeah.
Scripts back, which we all went through. We divided them up between us and read through them, and we were tickled by a few of them. Not to be mean, but some were a bit more not the flavour we were going.
The interesting thing, I think, just to interject there about the scripts thing. At this stage, it was really interesting for me because, as James said, I said I don't want to write the script. I said, I've got novels to write, and I've got to do that because that's my day job, and I've got deadlines and stuff. But also because I thought it's not what I've trained for, and I'm not going to do a great job. I don't know how that works. But also, I thought if I do it, I'm just going to basically translate what's in the book onto the screen. I don't know how to translate a property that already exists and make it different enough that it works for the screen. I don't know what's required for that really. And there's a lot of skill and knowledge in that. And the scripts that we didn't like were people, because we gave them a sample of the book and said, here, create these 10 pages into a script. And the ones that were really not good was because they had literally done just that, what I said. They just converted, the same dialogue and exactly almost like this word for word, the descriptions just became a script. And if it's just a formatting job, obviously I could do that. Anyone could do that. And it was Greg and a couple of others that we interviewed face to face had done something, but they'd taken it a bit further and done something a bit different. And I mean, Greg in particular stood out because when he came along, he'd not only taken it in slightly different directions for some of the characters and things in this scene that we'd asked him to do, but he also came prepared with a whole breakdown of what he's envisaged happening later on and how these things would feed into the main storyline. So he'd thought things through. And when we asked him difficult questions and said, well, how would you tackle? Well, anyone who's read the book knows there's some quite gritty, grim scenes in the book, and so we said, how would you tackle some of these things on screen? And Greg said, well, here's something I prepared earlier, and he had a whole sheet of answers. And so I think at that point we knew that he was a cut above the rest of the script writers we talked to.
And it's funny because I'm sure Greg would sort of be able to testify to this, but it shows a real deft hand, because we did specifically say, look, we're not looking for something wildly different from the 10 pages. We want something that's, an adaptation. And obviously you end up with sort of two extremes in many cases of people who, like Matt said, that end up just formatting the novel into a script, or people who went off in wild directions.
Well, yes, there was one that was really wild, but we won't go into that.
I need to read that at some point.
One had, I don't know the guy's name or anything, but one of them had changed the script into a different time era. He gave us two. He gave us one that was straight, and he gave us one that was totally like a different time, a different era, different place. Everything was different. It's like, wow, this is like so far. This is wow.
It's interesting. It's definitely worth as a writer taking risks, but there's sometimes you just got to kind of toe the line. But with Greg, like what we loved about Greg is that he envision as us. He was all the things about the book that we knew would maybe be more difficult in translating to television. Greg was already noting. If we had in that initial meeting kind of raised it, Greg would. So it was very it just felt exactly like the right fit, and ever since has been, because you've been the wise old owl, haven't you, Greg, that have been helping us move this forward in the right direction. And actually, there is something to be said. Directors and producers and networks that we've gone out to have labelled the script as ready to shoot and dazzling. So
a BAFTA award-winning director we spoke to said that Greg's script was dazzling.
Absolutely.
And ready to shoot tomorrow. So,
and that is really rare. That is very rare to go to a director or a network with a script that they feel is like ready to shoot. So I think that's just stands as testament to Greg's skill. So.
And of course, he said nothing about he said nothing about my book. Yeah, obviously.
Episode 2 is obviously set in space, so that's the
yes.
That's the cost of the quality of the first episode.
Oh, okay, yeah, good. I'm looking forward to that one. Lots of double-headed axes, laser guns.
It's Alien meets Bear Brand. That's what it is.
Yeah, good. I can't wait. That'll be season 2. That'll be when we get the first season made. Okay.
And we interviewed Greg as just a scriptwriter, but his role has now evolved
massively. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so he came on as a scriptwriter originally, and we kind of negotiated. What's your role going to be in this? And over time, it kind of evolved, and he's absolutely a fully fledged equal partner in the production process. So we all get together every production meeting. We're all together, and he came on set, and we're all working fully towards getting this made. So I think that explains how we all got together. So then what's the next question, James?
The next question is from a Michael Wisniewski, I think.
Wow.
And he was asking how we cast it for the cast of POC.
I think so the process of casting was very similar to going to reaching out for script writers. Because as we've mentioned before, that this was a very low budget production, we made it very clear that we were really looking for sort of passionate, talented people who were in a position in their career where they would feel happy volunteering their skills. And there are loads of resources for script writers, but then also in actors who who would be keen to sort of jump in and go, look, something like this would be great for my portfolio, but I have got experience, and so that's really what we did in that respect. I am theoretically an actor myself, so knowing sort of the other side of that that experience, I sort of went to the resources where I would look to for castings and a few more. And again, sometimes it's a case of putting feelers out to experienced actors who we might have worked with and said, look, would you be interested in auditioning for this? And I think really that's how we gather together most of our primary actors.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say that Jordan is underselling himself. He says theoretically he's an actor. He's an actor who's appeared in many mainstream TV series and things. So he is an actor, and so he does know people in the industry. And it was very useful in having some context there and being able to, and also seeing it from their side. So Jordan organised most of the casting stuff really in the auditions and everything.
Definitely.
Sorry, Ree, over to you.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say it's a huge. Just experiencing it and being from inside the industry ourselves, it is very much a case of you can do auditions, but if you do have those connections and those networks as an actor, it does help to go a long way. Because I remember we were having a casting discussion and I think all of us were kind of throwing in names of actors or talent that we knew personally. And I think pretty much nearly every single one of us had put a name into the pool that ended up being in the POC. And we'd still ask them for self-tapes or auditions, but knowing someone's a pleasure to work with, or knowing someone really does have the acting chops and having seen it firsthand goes a long way. And just being pleasant on set, being pleasant to work with, and hardworking, that sticks in your head as a director or as a fellow actor even. And so moving on from that, your name will pop up in conversation for other productions. So yeah, it's definitely worth taking note of, I think.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I took out of it as well, because believe it or not, years and years ago, I wanted to be an actor, but that's a past life. But yeah, looking at it, sorry, Connor.
Your acting is definitely a good job you went.
Oh, thanks.
That's not true. We would need to be
Thanks.
voiceover. We
Thanks,
want you to be the voiceover.
I'll be voiceover man. No, but from the
Great
actor's perspective, it was interesting just looking at the I forgot what I was going to say now. You put me off, Connor, by insulting me.
We were talking about how knowing each other and working with each other is pleasant on set, and how, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just the different actors that you knew already, and when they came on, it was, you know, you said about certain people, you said, oh, you know, how about let's contact this person, let's contact them, and it was great. Yeah, it was really brilliant. I can't remember. I was going to say something else, but I'll remember later on something.
I mean, I have to say, as a prime example for that, Liam, who is our Bayo brand,
yeah,
like, he is the prime example of an actor who is just a pleasure on set. You know, don't get me wrong, our entire cast were great to work with, but Liam is the kind of actor who, you know, you'd see and go, oh, there's Liam. He's, you know, and he's a lovely guy. And so someone like that is exactly it's sort of the archetype of someone.
Definitely.
And Liam was on set every single day. And
he was,
yeah,
and he was great.
And we put him through his paces, and Liam every time, no matter what we threw at him, he was like, yeah, I'll do it. He came with such optimism and no ego as well, and that is something that makes the world of difference working with someone. And I think from there on, we worked with Liam before anyway, so we knew he was a pleasure to work with, but from here on out, you know, he's at the top of our list as cinemas, you know, to work with in future. So from an acting standpoint, that's definitely something to kind of
yeah. I know what I was going to say was that it was interesting to me to see that people that entered the audition phase by sending self-tapes or even coming in person to audition in front of us, you know, that those that didn't necessarily make the main role that they were, because we were casting for Bayer Brand, and we got lots of people wanted, you know, to be the lead, but those people that didn't get the lead, you know, lots of them, if not all of them, I don't know, but most of them ended up in the proof of concept anyway. So, you know, you end up seeing people and saying, okay, you're not quite right for that role. And you see this in other, you know, big budget things that are made, you know, certain actors, you know, say I originally, you know, auditioned for something else and I got a different role. But it's great to see. I think that the fact that people, when they showed themselves willing and they came and auditioned and talked to us, you know, we realized that certain people didn't fit exactly the role that they thought they were auditioning for, but they did fit other roles and they were great people. So we got them in, So it was really good experience. And I think, you know, actually it was amazing that everybody, and not just cast, but, you know, also the music, you know, Josh Evans doing the music, and there's, you know, everybody involved, the concept artists I mentioned before, we had people involved there. I mean, so many people, the costume, the guys, the Viking reenactors that we got sort of last minute. So Matt Bickinson organized that for us last minute when we things had fallen through, and so, but people just threw themselves in and helped, you know, for nothing, you know, to help out, and it was amazing. And that was something that I'll never forget. I mean, it was incredible that people would drive, you know, hundreds of miles and come to a cold place to stand in a field and just because we asked. And it was amazing. Okay, James, next question.
It's a nice segue about actors. We have a question from someone called Chris Hampson.
Oh, okay. I remember
Chris, the
that
best
name.
actor you've ever seen, and will Matthew be writing a book specially for him?
Yeah, I already have written a book specially for him. It's called Wolf of Wessex, which is about an old man past his prime. He's kind of the old battle axe that has to sort of get up and fight again. So, Chris, get that beard, grow that beard again. That could be the next project.
Chris was a pleasure to work with. Sorry,
he's too
Greg.
clean shaven now. That's the problem. He can't.
I know. He needs to grow the beard. He needs to grow that grey beard. But yeah, Chris was amazing.
Wonderful, wasn't he? He was really wonderful to work with, and actually, he's someone that regularly people watch the trailer and go, "Oh, he is."
So
captivating.
Who's that guy?
Really
so for people watching, so Christopher Hampson is Shand. So he's the lord that starts the piece at the beginning of and he's throughout the trailer. But you know, he's you know, where you come from and all that, sitting there in the hall, and he's great. He's got a great presence. And he was just really, yeah, it's really an absolute pleasure to work with.
Yeah, very professional.
And a friend of Greg's as well.
Yes, we were in school together, so we go back that far. Yeah.
So this is, going back to the who you know and everything. I mean, the network. I mean, Chris is a professional actor and a fantastic actor at that. But the fact that you can reach out to friends and say, "Would you come and give us some of your time?" was great, and Chris did a brilliant job. So yeah, fantastic.
Okay, next question. I've got Margaret Skay again asking, how long did it take to film the trailer?
Oh, good question.
Go on, Ree.
About a week, except that was split up over time. We were very lucky. We managed to finish the entire shoot virtually like the day or two before lockdown hit. So we were on tenterhooks there because we desperately wanted to kind of get finished safely as well. But no, it took in total about 7 or 8 days, but that was between the months of January and March. So the initial January shoots were very cold.
Yes, they were.
Cold, and we were in thick coats. A lot of the thermal. And it was hard.
And that's for those who've seen the. Hopefully, everyone's seen the trailer. But for in the trailer, where the bit with Bearbrand, Liam, with his top off by the water, that was in January. And earlier that morning, about 2 hours before that, it had been snowing where we were, and it was bitterly cold. I mean, really, really cold. And he was like up for everything. He was like, "I'll get in the water if you want." I mean, that's the kind of guy that Liam.
Absolutely not, Liam. We are, you are our, we cannot risk damaging you in any way. So, shot, jacket on. I seem to remember at one point running on set, going, "Here's a jacket. Here we go." Between takes, just to.
You were jacket wrangler, weren't you, George?
Dog wrangler.
Dog wrangler.
He was blues wrangler for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
As several people, I think, from behind the scenes photos said, who's have they got their own professional dog handler? And it's like,
yeah, that's right. That's Jordan.
Experienced actor, audio producer, hopefully television producer, but dog wrangler. That's definitely the next leg of my team.
That's good. The only thing we didn't manage was to get Blue into the trailer. We should have filmed
series.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah, we'll get him in there. Okay, any more questions then, James?
We've actually got quite a few.
Okay, let's see if we can rattle through some
Do you
more.
want to just power through them? Okay, we've got how difficult is it to match actors with these fictional individuals?
I think we had quite a debate on that, didn't we? We understand that you have to be quite flexible to some degree, but in terms of going, okay, we're not going to get photocopies of what we imagine in our minds of a character, collectively, but by that same token, we want something that really captures the sort of the spirit of the character, and I think in that respect, I think we really hit the nail on the head each time. I think
we did a really great job, and it's really difficult because I don't have a clear idea in my head what they look like, and everybody's got their own opinion. So when we talked about the characters, everybody wanted something slightly different. So there was a lot of discussion about every character. So I'd say it was difficult, and there was some arguments, especially around the main characters. We really went around a bit, but it's I think we did really well in the end. We were really lucky.
We were all very happy with the outcome.
Yeah. And I would say I note from a lot of the comments made on the actual trailer, a lot of people have said, "Oh, characters are recognizable from the books," which I think is the key thing. No one looks at them and goes, "Who's that?" They sort of go, "Oh, okay, I can see that being so and so." So I think that's the clincher there. That's how we know.
Yeah.
Next one is: are you going to be using the same actors from the trailer in the finished production of the Serpent Sword?
That's a very good question. We really do aim to do that. We basically, a lot of the future of the Serpent Sword, we can't necessarily guarantee. And this is solely down to the fact that when you team up with a network or a streamer or an investor, our creative control is sometimes diluted, and there will be a collaboration of sorts. So depending on who we end up kind of partnering with, they may have their own ideas, but the main thing to take away from this is that the POC for us as well, actors acts as a fantastic kind of reel to demonstrate why they would be great for that role. And of course, there are also loads of other characters that we haven't featured within the POC. So there's real scope for new actors, for pre-existing actors from the POC, but we really are kind of taking them forward, certainly as part of like our pitch and demonstrating that these guys are more than happy and would very much like to be involved in it in some capacity.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, I've just had a look down. We've only really got one more question, I think, and that's from Adilis Guthrie, and it says, Rhiannon, are you the only girl on the team?
Well, looking around me, yes.
On the production team, yes, but there were some more girls involved in the project.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So on the so we have a kind of different tiers. We've got our main production team, which is the 6 of us. But outside of that, we really do need to give praise to a lot of the other girls behind the scenes. We had Susan on costume, who did a phenomenal job. We had our runner and production assistant Sam, who just was fantastic on set as well. We've got obviously lots of female cast as well. We had female photographers, behind the scenes photographers, Ronnie, a shout out there as well. So no, we really have tried to kind of implement a really nice balance within this production. I think for me, something that's really important with the nature of the story we're telling, and the kind of epicness to what Matt's created in his books, is that we want to make sure that it appeals to a female audience as well, and that a lot of Matthew's readers already are women, and they're really excited. They're very excited about this genre, and that's something that I think stereotypically people don't necessarily think of. So it's quite nice to be kind of elevating that and to be able to bring a kind of, I guess, a feminine perspective to this. And we've discussed this before, but there's new characters that will be adding to the television series that will bring more kind of maybe female autonomy for that time. It's all a really good balancing act between kind of managing a modern perspective, but also demonstrating the kind of, I guess, inequalities of the time with the gender balance as well. But in terms of behind the scenes, we're very much a kind of balanced and kind of equal team, and I've loved working with these guys. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Yeah, I think
that's
oh, hang on.
So we've got one more. So we've got another question. So if anyone's got any more questions, feel free to post them. I'm going to just go to the last question that we got from Anna Bucci, who's one of the patrons on the Patreon page, and so she'd asked 4 different questions, so I asked the rest earlier on, but she did ask, her final question was, will we get more behind the scenes stuff, which allows me just to sort of plug the Patreon page again, because obviously she's been a patron now for over 6 months, and so she's seen lots of behind the scenes stuff. So while we were filming, I've been posting videos and photos and snippets of information about what's going on, interviews with the cast and crew, and yeah, so there's been lots of stuff shared there, either exclusively or in advance of going on to Facebook and Twitter and stuff. So in answer to the question, there will be more behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, the pool of what we've got to share is getting smaller, and we only, it was a 3-minute trailer or 4-minute trailer with the credits, but 3 minutes of footage on screen. So there are lots of photos. There are hundreds of photos, so we can share more photos, and there's still a few more little video clips and things that we can dredge up.
There's a few more surprises to come.
Yeah.
We currently have quite a lot of video content that hasn't been shared, but due to COVID and stuff, trying to get hard drives and stuff around has been quite difficult. So they're currently with our behind the scenes photographer and videographer Dan, and so when we get our hands on those, you'll be seeing them first on Patreon there.
Great. Yeah, so there will be more stuff there, and as I said before, we've got other stuff that get shared on Patreon. So people that are interested, go and have a look, and there will be more stuff there. And as this progresses and moves forward, if we get to the stage that is greenlit and we're making a full production, then we'll do our very best to capture some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and when we're able to share it with fans. Okay, did you say there's another question, James?
A few more have now popped up because
okay.
We ran out. I think everyone. Oh, I can ask something.
It's good.
I've got Emily Mazzeo asking who are
my good friend Emily. Sorry, James. Carry on.
That's all right.
So what's the question? Sorry.
Who are our favourite characters? What are our favourite characters?
Beobrand, naturally Beobrand. I also really like a new character that is going to be included. I can't necessarily say more than that, but she's very cool and very complex. And of course, and Eonflad as well. She's wicked. She kind of reminds me of that kind of Game of Thrones Arya type kind of role. She's just really cool, very kick-ass. Got a lot of spunk and kind of energy, and very intelligent and maybe underestimated for her age as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, Alfred, the princess that has been expanded quite a lot in the script. So readers of the series will know that she becomes a much more prominent character in the books as she gets older. But Greg and I discussed early on about making her just a few years older, 2 or 3, 4 years older than she is in the book, in the historical timeline, to give her the ability to have this more autonomy and give her a bit more of a prominent role in some of the storyline of the Serpent Sword. Not that it would deviate from what happens in the main thread of the storyline, but she's been beefed up and given her own sort of side storyline of stuff that happens maybe off screen in the book, as it were.
I think people will definitely enjoy following them along her storyline now.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that, Eonflad's probably my favourite character. At the moment, it's certainly in that pilot episode, and it's been great to kind of give her something to do that I think is very interesting, and that's going to spin out through the whole series, and that's also going to involve this new character we talked about as well. And so writing those completely new scenes has been a lot of fun. I think Matthew's actually enjoyed seeing those perhaps more than some of the existing scenes come to life. So
well, I'd say in the pilot and the second episode that you've written already, one of my favorite characters is actually Ethelberga, who's the queen, who again appears in the book, and she's there, and she has obviously an important role. She's King Edwin's wife, but in this storyline, she's been her character's been given more to do and more screen time, and her story follows along with her daughters, and I really like that. The writing of her character is really interesting. I think she's really good.
Interesting. If we talk about episode 2, because there were 2 characters in mind that I had, which is because I love a good villain, and so Hengist was one, but
fan favorite.
But I have to say, reading Greg's script, a character who I'm really starting to be quite interested in, and especially as the series goes on, is Cadwallon. I find him such a fascinating character, especially in the script, but as sort of Greg has sort of fleshed that character out in new and interesting ways.
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard to choose a favorite, because I'm going over everyone in my head and thinking they've got their own, they've got their own voice and own just each one. I think Matthew created created something that we all can agree is a very significant, very incredible story with great characters. And I think when you've got great characters, that kind of story, a good story follows usually.
Yeah, I have to mention the cannibal lady as well. She's one of my favorites.
The cannibal lady. Yeah, so this is she. I think people that read the Serpent Sword might not have noticed the cannibal lady, but she's there. If you search, there's a reference to her as a lady that potentially is going to commit some cannibalistic act, but nobody seems to have noticed until I pointed it out. So James, more questions. So we rattle through a couple more.
I think we can do a few more. I'm not off anywhere. Chris Hampson again, but this time slightly more less of a question, self-serving. Rhiannon, what was the most difficult shot to make in the trailer?
Oh, that's a really good question. Difficult technically was the fire scene, and I've got to give all credit to 3 men. Definitely Connor for creating the fire, and also poor Greg and Matthew and Liam, of course. Liam, who Greg and Matthew had to run behind Liam at equal pace with the blue screen, and then Connor did all the kind of magic behind the scenes, and that took some time. And in that, take in mind as well, cinemas were a film and video production company. We're not necessarily kind of CG based, but I think Connor did a really good. I think he did a great job on that. So I would say technically that, but I think to be honest, difficulty wise, everybody on set made the job so enjoyable that despite the weather or despite the hardships of or terrain of some of the shots, you know, it got done. And I think everyone, you know, something as a filmmaker, you tend to come away enjoying some shots more than others, but I came away feeling a genuinely kind of amazing sense of positivity about everything we shot, because I just felt a lot of time and effort and kind of talent went into it. So yeah.
I think those interior shots you and Connor got, you know, the atmosphere that you created in those interiors was fantastic, and those were, I mean, they may not have been the most difficult, I don't know, but they just look so good.
Oh,
the lighting and the fire, the fire and the lighting, everything's great.
I was going to say, Con, you'd probably say. Sorry, no, I was going to say, Connor would probably tell you internally that lighting is quite a tricky part with something like that.
Well, I remember going into the hut where we filmed with Connor, you know, day one, and he and I just got chatting about it, and he's just sort of saying, well, we could do this with this, and you know, Connor really sort of shows his DOP skin when he starts to repaint the picture, and you really can see it in your mind's eye when you stood on set going, oh yes, and if you do this with the light, we could get this wonderful sort of spectral aspect to it. And it's like, you know, he really is an artist in that sense.
And I think the difficult thing on that note is that if you're filming something contemporary, you've got, you know, fluorescent lights and electric and stuff like that. But when you're looking at that era, really, you've got sort of firelight and moonlight to work with. If you're looking at nighttime, you don't have, you know, neon lights and stuff that you can play around with. So trying to figure out a natural way of lighting it that still looks the part was probably one of the more difficult parts of that.
And especially when I'm there going, right, when are we rolling, and Connor's like, I need time. So it's a great teamwork went into this, and I think it shows. So.
I mean, I think in particular, one of the things that I don't know if anyone who's watching this, if they know, we ever actually mentioned it properly on when we put the trailer out, but every single interior shot is the same place, it's just dressed differently. And I think that shows the sort of level to which we you know, that Connor was able to make do with what a very limited amount of material to make things look so completely different depending on what scene we were looking at.
Definitely. And I think a really quick note, a big thank you to Matt Bunker and Silver Foundation as well for giving us, and Neptune Wood as well for allowing us to film there, because without the location and a lot of those props, it just wouldn't look anything like it does, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah. And I think 100%. One of the more harder single shots to pull off, just thinking about it, was trying to follow Liam uphill as he's sprinting full speed.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't just you that struggled there, because I remember Chris Maxwell having to run as Akenan, running along next to Liam, and Liam, who's a fitness instructor, was pegging up that hill. Poor old Chris. He was not happy after a while. How many takes by the end of it? I thought we're going to need to go and get an oxygen mask.
It was, that was a hard shoot physically, and certainly for Con as well to be carrying that quick. I think we got some great BTS shots of him running.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find the behind the scenes footage of Connor almost falling over. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lying around somewhere.
Yeah.
One of my few personal behind the scenes filming I think I did myself.
Yes.
No. wait, where it wasn't you falling over, George.
Yeah.
Okay, James, we've got any? Well, we were sort of out of time, so we've gone over the hour. But if we've got any more, we could maybe answer one or two more.
Got 1, 2, 3, about 3 more, I think.
Okay, let's do 3 more then. Any more questions after this, we won't pick up. So don't bother posting any more questions. We're going to take these 3.
Apparently, Simon Blunsden says, Matthew, you're allowed to smile.
Matthew
was always smiling. Simon Blunsden's absolute legend.
Shane Smart, did you use the warrior handshake on set? Matthew?
I think there is a warrior handshake of the clasping the forearm, but I think it was between Kenred and Bearbrand when they meet. I think that they do the sort of the warrior handshake. Obviously, we all do the warrior handshake every time we meet, especially me and Connor. You know, both warriors. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
You know.
So Simon Blunsdon, this time actually this is my question. Some scenes in the book are very graphic. How will this translate to the big screen?
Well, we covered a little bit of that earlier, saying that certain things Greg had talked about changing the perspective or doing things slightly differently than in the book, without giving, I don't want to give too much away around different twists and changes. But yeah, we really thought about some of the really graphic stuff and how you would go about tackling it.
I think some of it will translate very well. I mean, it certainly there's it's a violent book, and it's a a relatively violent and gory script. I think some of the scenes, we just had to think about whether they would be whether they would work on the screen in the same way that maybe they work on the page, and what that would look like and how that might change the feel of the show that we're aiming to do. So some things have been reconsidered, I think. And
it was asking the question of whether things were necessary and whether you could tell the story and still be truthful to the story and all the characters and the character development and miss out some me graphic scenes or change them in certain ways and
part of it is because the story was inevitably going to expand. That meant there was more space for things to go in slightly different directions, which meant that some of those scenes weren't needed.
So yeah, there's still going to be lots of blood and guts, so don't worry.
Yeah, plenty of gore.
Every time we talk about what we're doing, Rhiannon's the first one to mention gore. She mentions gore like every conversation.
I'm like, how can we make this more gory?
It's like, wow, okay.
Bloodthirsty.
Yeah, very bloodthirsty.
I think that says a lot about me, doesn't it? But
it does.
I think for just on the gore front, it's I think it's very what we were saying earlier about how some things are necessary and some things aren't. I think for something of this nature and this genre, something would be missing without that level of violence. Like, we're so not used to it as a modern day viewer, and it was very much something that was ingrained in that kind of era. And I think the kind of chaos and gore of battle as well is something that, and there's a lot of messages that we're trying to get across. There's things like potentially, PTSD in the Dark Ages or medieval, early medieval age. That is something that I think can be demonstrated through trauma, and a lot of that trauma does come from the kind of violence of battle. So yeah,
it's also part of the authentic. Sorry, Jordan. It's part of the authentic, take we're really going for. So it's not kind of gratuitous. It's not for the sake of it, but it's part of the era and part of the
how it was kind of.
Yes, how it was for the people and the characters in this setting.
Yeah.
So was that it, James?
One
more
question, again, it's Chris Hampson again, and he says, can you tell us more of the process of adding sound effects and how it elevated the whole feeling of the trailer?
Ooh, I think we should pitch that to Jordan, because there's actually we should really thank Helen and Bang, who were responsible for the sound for this trailer, and it would not be the product it is without it. We were amazed by their work on this. So over to you, Jordan.
I mean, I have to, completely agree with that. Bang Post Production, who people might know from, they did Gangs of London most recently, or Good Omens. They won an Emmy a few years ago for Sherlock. My partner Helen has been working for them for the past significantly more than 2 years now. And they were really gracious in saying, look, we would be happy to help do the sound design for it, and that level of skill, being able to just put another layer on top of, we were very happy with the trailer. The visuals we were very happy with, and the performances, but then just adding that extra layer of post-production sound really just gave it that something, that texture that I think people don't always.
That's another dimension.
And when you consider people giving their incredible skills for nothing, you know, and so, you know, Helen doing the work and Bang, you know, allowing her to do it and use their tools and to, you know, to do it and being involved as well. It was incredible. And then on top of, and I mentioned before Joshua Evans and the music, but again, you know, getting a composer to come and compose music specifically for the trailer, and those two things at the end, you know, original music. And he did, you know, many iterations of the music, and we went through, I don't know how many iterations of the music that we kept on asking him to make changes to. And so to get an original, you know, basically, you know, original soundtrack of music for the trailer, composed for the trailer, and a really professional soundscape for it, you know, it just elevates it to beyond, as you know, what without that, you know, I think it would have been a lot less impacting and polished.
Yeah, and I think as a I would say the composer wise, Josh, bless him, he had one of the hardest jobs, because we had to translate. It's different when you're translating maybe a book to a script to a screen, but when you're asking someone what we as maybe unexperienced musicians, or even some of us as amateur musicians, when we're trying to translate a mood and a tone and a feel, without being able to kind of give him much more than that, Josh had a very, very difficult task there, and he really did nail it. So well done, Josh.
So brilliant.
Simon's question. Just asked the question I thought we'd answer. He said, what went through our heads seeing an on-screen sword fighting close up, and did we expect it to be as physical as it was? And
is that Simon Dwyer?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He plays Hengist in the proof of concept, and I guess so. I was pretty much dancing alongside them, so I guess I'll take this. But I mean, a shout out to Sai. He, you know, choreographed all the stuff with Liam and Lloyd, and throughout the whole POC, and we were asking him to do it over and over and over again, and you can see by, you know, sort of take, you know, come to take 20, and they're very much out of breath, and fair play for them for doing that. You know, it's a lot of grueling back and forth, and it is really physical. And so I don't know whether Simon's question was more towards the audiences or us, but we were all on there, and I'm dancing along next to them with the camera, but I'm not bringing it around.
That was one of the first. Was that one of the first days we filmed, or the second day? And I remember that was when I really, you know, at the end of the first sort of clash of shields and swords and everything, and they proper went for it. So I mean, Si did a great job of the choreography, but Liam, you know, really jumped in as well. The two of them, you know, were they'd rehearsed for a whole day beforehand, if not two, I think, and so they really knew what they were doing. But they really went for it. So, you know, clashing together and whacking the swords into each other and into their shields and things, and it was really exciting. And when they finished the you know, the first take, I remember just letting out this cheer. Yes, it's amazing.
Like a battle roar. It was, and it what was amazing about it is the you know, people like Sai and Liam, they making it look easy is the wrong word, but they make it look you don't realize until you're there on set just how much skill, how much you know, danger there is to performing a stunt properly and effectively. And so to be able to kind of take all of that on and almost, you know, choreograph it like a dance scene, that's wonderful. But if you're dancing, you can go wrong and it won't necessarily hurt you. whereas a wrong move here could potentially be very, very worrying. So I think they did an amazing job, and yeah, you know, huge respect for kind of stunt, you know, people that work in stunts and choreographing.
And if anyone watching this hasn't seen, there's a video we posted. I think I posted it to YouTube. I don't know. Did I post it just to the Patreon, or did I post it to YouTube?
No, you
the one of
the. I believe.
Did I post it publicly? I think it's public anyway. If it's not, it might be soon, or maybe I'll make it public. No, I think it is public. A video I put together of with some of the behind the scenes footage of Simon and Liam going through the rehearsal stage, and then right through to the on set, and then the final product that's in the trailer. So if you find our YouTube channel, you can watch that. And it's impressive, you know, to see the evolution and the amount of effort that goes into it. So I think that's it. I think we're going to have to wrap up now. So it's been over an hour. So thanks everybody for coming along, and thanks for everybody's support. And thank you to all the Patreons or the patrons on Patreon. And thanks to all the fans who've shared it and all the readers that are interested. Keep sharing, keep being interested, keep supporting us. And fingers crossed, we'll get this done.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody who supported this. It means the world to us, and it enables us to take this further. And hopefully one day we can all be looking at it on the TV, thinking we've all had a part in it and to play in it. So, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye from us. Till next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.